Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. It's your boy D Black coming back to you with the Saturday night main event review. Alright, well, I'm just gonna say this. Saturday night main event, it wasn't really too bad. I mean, there was a match or two that was kind of, but for the rest of the show, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a pretty decent show and everything. And so out of a 10, I'm just gonna hit it early. I'm gonna give this one a 6 and stuff. It was pretty good. you know. So at the pre-show, they added the match with Trick Williams and Laredo Kid. The match was okay. It was okay. I mean, it was a match that was thrown together, no storyline behind it or anything like that. I just figured it was like more or less like a little crowd pleaser. And then we get Stephanie McMahon, with Obafemi, and she's talking to Obafemi about the match that him and Brock Lesnar are going to be having in Hell in the Cell. And then Obafemi was saying that Brock Lesnar, has been hiding from him, you know. Um, and then he says that he's in Brock Lesnar's head and stuff like that. Then Oba said that Brock is saying he should. Brock is saying that Oba is saying Brock is telling him that he should be afraid to be in the ring, to get in the ring with him. And then Obafemi is saying that Brock Lesnar should be the one being afraid to get in the ring, with him and stuff. And Oba tells him that in Hell in the Cell, he's going to beat Brock Lesnar and he's going to put him down for good. So, and they're building this one. I mean, this one is going pretty good and stuff. I kind of thought maybe Brock might have came out during this interview, but since Stephanie was in the ring and Oba was kind of dressed up, well, he was dressed last time when Brock, Lesnar came in there. So, but anyway, it's going to be one heck of a match. We got a couple more weeks before SummerSlam, so this one should be one of the ones that is going to be pretty good, I think. And then we get into the regular show, Saturday night main event, show, and then we have the women's tag team title match. Fatal Influences, Lanny Reed and Fallin Henley against Paige and Brei. You know, as they approached the ring, both teams, no acknowledgement from the crowd or anything like that. The match was kind of pretty boring and stuff. I mean, it picked up a little bit, but it wasn't anything to be excited about. You figured that JC Lane was going to get, JC Jane, she was going to get involved in everything and stuff, and there was no major move to get the win. It was just a roll up, because JC Jane, got involved and stuff, and then she got rolled up by Laney Reed, rolls up Paige, for the win, and now we have women's new tag team titles, Laney Reed and Fallon Henley. Then we get Sami Zayn and Kathy talking, and Sami is complaining, more or less so again, saying how Cody and CM Punk, got their match, at SummerSlam, and all they had to do is just say, win and stuff, and so now he's saying that him and Gunther, have to be in the match together in order to get anything as far as that. If they win the if they win the match, they're going to be able to have a fatal four way and stuff, and at least it'd be for the title and stuff and everything. And then Gunther comes out and he tells Sami, hey, look, we might have this match together and stuff, but he says stay out of his face, and don't cause him, to lose a shot at the title and stuff. And then he just walks off. And then we have the match with JD McDonough and Danhousen. Now the people in the back, they're starting to call Danhousen the Dan Curse father, which is crazy and stuff. But anyway, you have this match, and the match was going on. I mean, it was okay. I mean, JD McDonough was more or less dominating the match and stuff like that. And then Dominic Mysterio, as Danhausen kind of got a little up on him and everything. Dom Mysterio, he got involved in the match and everything. And I'm saying, this is JD McDonough and Danhousen. Why would Dom Mysterio get involved in the ring and stuff? Get involved in the match and everything and jump on Danhausen. But I guess that's how the Judgment Day work and that's how they do and stuff. And then there was one point where JD McDonough told um, Dom to go get the tables, kind of like the Dudley Boys, and it failed. I mean, it failed bad and stuff, and the crowd just wasn't even in it. But anyway, as Dom was trying to get the table and everything, all the little mini houses started coming out of from nowhere and everything from out of the ring. They were beating up, Dom and JD McDonough and everything and stuff. And then as that's going on, Danhausen is running up the runway and stuff. He goes to that big old box and he pulls out the little black cat that's in the cage and everything, and he puts it inside the box, and then the box top explodes off and everything, and out comes Carl Anthony Towns and stuff, and they call him Cat. He played with the New York Knicks way back in the day and stuff. And then he comes out and then he choke slams JD McDonough, and then he choke slams John Mysterio through a table and stuff. And then Danhausen 3D's JD McDonough for the win and stuff. So it was a little bit crazy. It was kind of, had a little fun in and stuff like that. I guess it wasn't too bad if you kind of like that stuff. Me, I like just a traditional match, and it go on. But this is how we're doing it nowadays, so we got to put up with it. Well, we don't have to, but we do. Then you got Kathy talking to Lyra Valkyria saying that she wanted to um, make it to the top, and how Bayley was kind of slowing her down and stuff like that and everything. And she said after tonight, when she beats Bayley, she's gonna put Bayley, out of her head, get Bayley out of her head, and then go on to be who she is and who she's supposed to be and stuff. And then Kathy is talking to Bayley. Jackie is talking to Bayley, and Bayley is saying more or less what Lyra Valkyria said and everything, that she's going to take care of Lyra and stuff like that because, she's been around and helping other people, establish their careers and stuff, and then they end up stabbing her in the back and stuff like that. So she's saying more or less tonight, once she beats Lyra Valkyria and everything, she's just going to just get her out of her head too and everything, and then go on about her business and do what she does and everything. And then we get the match, with Lyra Valkyria and Bayley. The match, it was okay. It was pretty good and stuff. They were back and forth and everything, and they were doing their thing, and stuff. They've been through a lot of tough times together and stuff. Bayley had this one part where she was acting crazy and stuff, and then Lyra was helping her through that crazy time. And all of a sudden, once they lost their shot at the titles and everything, and then Lyra turns on Bayley and stuff. Now Lyra done lost her mind and everything and stuff. But during the match, Lyra, she ends up choking Bayley out and stuff for the win. And then after the match was over with, Lyra gets out of the ring and stuff. Well, actually, she boots Bayley out of the ring and stuff like a dog, kicking dirt over his poop and stuff. So she pushes Bayley out of the ring, and then Lyra gets out of the ring, and all of a sudden she grabs Bayley again and puts her in the chokehold and stuff, and starts choking her out again. And then she goes and removes the top of the ring stairs and everything. She takes Bayley, and then she just backdrops her across the stairs and stuff. And then she just walks away, leaving Bayley, laid out across the ring stairs and stuff. And then we got Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, you know, um, with Kathy and stuff, and they're saying they're going to be watching each other and everything. They don't want any excuses, about anyone getting hurt or injured. They're confessing their friendship with each other and stuff. And both of them saying they're going to watch each other's back during the match and everything because they don't want to have it, and they don't want anybody to have any excuses in SummerSlam. When they meet up, for their match and everything for the undisputed title And then we get the match with Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, versus Gunther and Sami Zayn. Before the match start, they get into a little brawl and stuff, and then they get a little, under, everything under control and stuff. And the match would go on. I mean, the match was pretty good and it was pretty brutal and stuff. I'm expecting, what we all expect in the match and stuff with this match, with the type of caliber and stuff. It's all about the championship. And you got these four guys who have been wrestling each other for quite a while. CM Punk coming in, taking the belt from Sami Zayn, from Sami Zayn after Sami had it for 9 days and stuff, and then Gunther trying to be involved because of a, promise that Paul Heyman made him, fight against Cody and stuff. So they're all assumed up into all this match and everything, stuff like that. And then at one point, in the match, Sami Zayn Haluna kicks CM Punk, and then Cody Rhodes crossroads Sami Zayn, and then Gunther gets in, he power slams Cody Rhodes, and then CM Punk he gets up and he GTS's Gunther and stuff. And then as the match goes on and everything, you know, um, Gunther he gets Cody Rhodes and he power slams him down and he covers. Well, actually there was a spot in there where everybody gets nailed, even the referee and stuff. He gets laid out and stuff. And then Gunther comes and he power slams Cody Rhodes and he calls out, another referee and stuff. And then as the referee comes out to make the count, then all of a sudden Nick Aldis pulls the referee out of the ring and stuff. And then Nick Aldis grabs the belt, the title, and he nails Gunther with the title and everything. And then CM Punk grabs Gunther and he GTS's him. And then he takes Cody and he pulls Cody Rhodes over on top of Gunther, for the pin. And so now at SummerSlam, you're going to have the match between Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. And I don't know what's going to happen with Gunther and Sami Zayn. There was a spot in there where um, Cody was going to do something to Gunther and he moved out of the ring and then Cody hits CM Punk. Excuse me, and you thought for a minute that they would like turn against each other, but it didn't phase either one of them and stuff. So Cody Rhodes and CM Punk win the match. They embrace and everything, um, and then they leave the match. So SummerSlam, Cody Rhodes and CM Punk, and then you get Roman Reigns bringing out Jalen Brunson and everything. Actually, Jalen Bronson actually starts walking to the ring and everything. He got that long, long walk to the ring and stuff. And then he basically meets up with Roman Reigns, at the entrance coming out to the ring. And then, they walk out of the ring, together and stuff. And then Roman Reigns, acknowledges him, as the MVP and everything and stuff. And then he says, that he calls him, the greatest, for them to have the acknowledgement, for them to acknowledge greatness. He's telling the fans to acknowledge greatness between, him and Jalen Bronson and stuff like that. And then Roman goes on and says, the MVP, the NBA champ, and then the King of New York. And then Roman goes and he grabs a belt. And I mean, this belt was it was nice. It was very, very, it was nice. Had the Knicks' colors on it and everything, and Jalen Bronson's name on it and stuff like that. And Roman, gives it to him, and then he tells New York, to acknowledge him. Then all of a sudden, you hear Seth Rollins' music. And so you're figuring Seth Rollins is going to come out, but then Tyreek Halliburton, he comes out. And they started booing him and booing him and booing him. And all of a sudden, Seth Rollins, he comes in and he jumps, he attacks Roman from behind and everything, you know, and they start, battling and everything. And then um, Seth sets up Roman for a stomp. Then Jalen Bronson, he steps in between Seth and Roman, and then Roman ends up hitting Seth with a Superman punch, and then Roman ends up spearing Seth Rollins and stuff, and then Jalen Bronson and Roman Reigns, then they start celebrating everything, and Tyreek Halliburton and Seth Rollins are outside the ring, looking crazy and everything, and then they start holding up, the titles and everything. And then they put the NBA title on top of the inside the ring, and then Roman Reigns grabs the NBA title, he holds it up, and they're both holding up the title and the NBA title and stuff, and then that's how it goes off. So Saturday night main event, it wasn't too bad and everything. Like I said, I give it a 6 out of 10, because I like this part, that they did with Jalen Bronson, then the match, with Cody Rhodes and them. Even though we've seen it before and everything, it was a pretty decent match. And then Lyra, Valkyria, and Bayley, they really had a good match. I'm not gonna lie, they had a pretty decent match, you know. But for that much and everything, I'm gonna say please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. Let me know how you're feeling. If you agree or disagree for what I say or anything, any comments of what I should do, what I should change or anything. Alrighty then. Thanks for watching. God bless. Deuces. And I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.